And we're back. This should be the second video that you are watching, and this video is going to break down how to set up your document for your annotated bibliography that you will turn in by Sunday. So the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do is you are going to go to your drive and you're going to open your shared folder. So for example, I'm in my shared folder now. I know some of this says 10. We're going to go to ELA 12 capstone, and that's where I would put this. So I would double click there and I would go ahead and add. So you'll click new, Google Docs, create and share. And we go from there. And so I'm gonna give Miss Whitworth a minute to be able to get onto that document.
Just have to reload. Come on now.
While she is reloading, you're gonna wanna go ahead and label or go ahead and title your document. So your last name, first name, annotated bibliography.
It's not showing me the one that you just created.
Is it doing it now? Now that I've named it.
Yes.
Okay. So I would name it with your last name, first name, don't we? And we want them a period, right?
Right. So it would be like if you have Miss Cockcroft, your first period class. So I would do 1 colon space, and that's how I do it in my, oh, you changed it.
Nope, that's fine. This works too.
That's what I usually do in my class, or I'll put like P in front of it just to make sure that like it doesn't mean to you guys, but when we're doing alphabetically, it comes up. It's easier to find your stuff if you name it correctly. So a lot of times I say, hey, I turn this in, and then I'm like, well, it's not in the folder, it's not there. And it's because I've done a search for annotated, I've done a search for your name, I've done a search, but you didn't name it correctly. And so sometimes you need to make sure that you are like you can get your stuff lost if you're not paying attention to how things are supposed to be going.
You're kind of cutting out a little bit, and I'm wondering if it's also because you have a lot of tabs open. Do you have
Don't look at my tabs.
I'm just gonna assume.
Yes. Let me click all my tabs.
I know. See, technology 2020. Yay!
Right.
Okay, so the very first thing, and we'll go back and forth with this. The very first thing that you're going to want to set it up so you're ready in MLA formatting, which requires that you change the font. So if you see my cursor up here, we change it to Times New Roman. So we got to scroll down, Times New Roman. We've got, we go ahead and put that to 12. And we're going to go ahead and double space everything. And so I'm going to go over here to line spacing and click double. So that my whole document is double spaced. The last thing that you always want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that it's 1-inch margins. It is 1-inch margins because that's how Google Docs starts it and sets it up like that. But we do, I mean, you can always check to make sure, you know, in case Google Doc is crazy. But if you click file and you scroll down to page setup, all these margins, that's the area around where you're typing, need to say 1. Right. Okay. Okay. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to put your name. So like Ms. Whitworth is typing Maria Smith. And then the last thing that, or the second thing, you're going to type your teacher's name. Do you want me to do that?
Mine was still on Arial. So.
Oh, okay. So she's going to type Mrs. Dub or Mrs. C. And then the next line, if you remember, is your ELA 12 and whatever your period is. And then you need to also put your date. But remember the formatting, it needs to be the day first, then the month, and then the year. And you're simply after that going to push, oh, there you go.
So I just put the title right here, and then I make sure that I hit enter because I'm going to go back and put my cursor back on this line and then I'm going to center the title. A lot of people will just hit tab until it goes to the center, and then it will never put it directly in the center. So what you do is you have to make sure that you go up and you make this just in the center. That's the only formatting that you do for a title in MLA. You don't make it bold, you don't put it underlined, you don't put it italics, you don't turn it into a bigger font. It is the same as everything else. It is just simply in the center.
Yep. And then when you want to get to the next line, if you have your cursor at the end, you press enter and you can just backspace it, or you can simply push left align up here. These are your alignments, left, center, right. We don't often use right align, but it just depends. So the next thing that you're going to do is put working thesis statement, and then you're going to type your thesis statement there. So we're going to pretend that we have a thesis statement here, but we don't, because we are using an example from a student who has already submitted her capstone notebook number 2. And so we're going to use that student's example here, but we don't know her thesis statement. So we're going to pretend that we wrote one, as you can see. I think the thing before I would move on, before we start actually doing the citations, so we want to put the header up here. And so the way that you do that is you click insert. Actually, I'm sorry, you can double click up here. Now what you're going to notice is that it changed to Arial. We don't want that. We want this to be in Times New Roman. So we're going to go ahead and click Arial or Times New Roman here. We're going to make sure it's 12. For this one, you do want to right align it. So you'll put right align, and we're going to insert the name and the page number. Correct, the last name?
Yeah, you usually put the last name. I do mine differently.
Oh, what do you do? Oh, you can click different first page.
Yeah, I do different first page, but I click over here where it says insert, and then insert page numbers.
Okay.
And then I go to that first one right there.
Right here?
No, the first one right there. Yeah. So I click that one, and then put your cursor in front of the one, and then you do your last name. So it would be Smith space, and then different first page. So then it takes it off the first page, and then it puts it on that second page, but you really can't see it until you get a second page.
Okay. That works too. All right, so we are going to go ahead and do the citation. Is that what we're going to do first?
Yeah.
Do you remember which one we were doing, which source?
I think we were going to do source number 8. So we opened up a student's notebook. We went through the sources, and we're just using one as a sample. So that way you guys can understand, how easy it is to transfer what you've already done. Okay, so the first step that you're going to do is you're going to click on that URL link, and that's going to take you to the article itself. So this article itself is from BBC News. The first thing that you need to do in a citation is you need to have the author's last name. So what we are going to do is just make sure that we have this author's last name. If I am just pulling from the site, there's 3 authors here. Let's see.
So we could.
You
If
can
you want to go ahead and show them the thing over here.
Yeah, go ahead and pull that one up.
So there are multiple, we want to point out something. There are multiple ways to make sure you do MLA citation correctly. In this week's notebook, you guys are going to be, there's going to be some information on works cited and MLA citations. And it should be review, right? And so it's going to look like this. There's going to be a video for my visual people. There's also going to be Purdue OWL, which is another resource that tells you how to do it. And then you also have another resource that also shows you how to make citations. And it's going to, if I click on this link, it'll pull up something that looks like this. Those are
Right.
3 resources. You have yet another resource in Google Docs to help you. So in the way that you do that, you go to tools and you click citation. You still have to have, it's going to help build it for you, but you got to make sure you know the information. So it's going to pull this up. We want it to make sure it says MLA, and we're going to say add citation. And this is a newspaper article or a website.
It's a newspaper article from a website. So I would say newspaper article because it's not the full website.
Okay.
I don't see that on my side, so I'm going to watch.
Well, we don't have to. We can do it in the other way just to quickly get it done.
Okay.
Or if you just tell me the things, I can put it on here.
Okay. So the author's name, we've got, I can put that on the.
Oh, I see what it's going to say. It's going to tell you the newspaper article. You could go ahead and keep doing that. That's fine. So as I think you can type it, but I'm also going to show you what she's telling me. You can put it in here as well. So you've got the author's last name.
So the author's last name, it said Laura Jones first. It has 3 authors. You need to put the author's last name first, comma, and then the first name. So it was Laura like this. And then you have and Danielle Palumbo and David Brown. You're going to put a period at the end of that last author. So you need to make sure that these are set off by commas, and you do not have to put the additional authors in last name first. So I'm not going to change the order of anybody but the first one.
So she showed you that way where you type it. What you see on the right-hand side is I am also doing it over here. So you find whichever way works best for you to make this citation. The last name was Palumbo.
Yeah, Palumbo.
So I've already put my first one in, and now I've got 3. So I got to click one more contributor, AKA author. And then I got to put David Brown. Okay, next step.
The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do the title of the source, which is the title of the actual article or the text. So what I did is I went over to that article and I just copied, because this is what a lot of you guys are going to do. Not that I would do this all the time, but I want to show you what it does to the document. So I hit Control C and now I'm hitting Control V. And if you look, my formatting has just totally gone berserk. Okay, so what this is the title, but I need to go back and make sure that there are quotation marks around it. I need a period at the end, and see all of these that are not capitalized from the site. I need to make sure that they are capitalized, because proper MLA format, they need to be capitalized if they are the title of the source.
So as she's doing that, then I did it the same thing that she said, but I put it in this little citation source. But I have to go through and do exactly what she said, a visual guide to thee, and I got to make sure, because it's going to spit out whatever I put in it. If I put something crazy, that's what it's spitting out. So either way, you've got to make sure you get the right information, just like when you're using a formula in math. You just pick which one works best for you. What I don't have to do is right now, I don't have to do quotation marks, because it should spit it out for me.
Right.
The next is the newspaper title.
So the next is the title of the container. So remember what we've talked about before, as the container is the thing that the bigger thing that it's in. So it's like the basket or the bowl that's carrying it. You've got the article title, but then where did you find that article? It's too vague to say the internet. We found it on BBC News. So we need the title of the website. And so the title of this website is BBC News. So that's the next thing that we are going to put in our citation. So hold on just a minute. I got all my tabs open.
I think you put it. And the BBC News is going to be italicized, correct?
It should be, yes.
Yeah. So she's going to have to, if you're going to do it the way that she's doing it, you're going to have to go up and highlight BBC News and make sure it's italicized. she's going to have to play with this formatting since she copy pasted, which is fine, but she just has to keep in mind, she's going to have to make sure this formatting is correct at the end.
Right.
And she also has to put the comma because she's typing it. Right now, I don't have to because this citation source, spitter out, I don't even know if that's the right name, but it's going to spit it out in the right way. It's going to have, hopefully, let's cross our fingers, it will have a comma after it. Okay, next.
So the next thing that we're going to do is other contributors. Other contributors is like, what if I put up a video on my website or on Ms. Cockcroft's website, she would be another contributor to my video. And so we just need to do a once over on this article to see, are there any other contributors? Did this go up anywhere else? This is generally at the beginning. So it'll be somebody maybe who translated it. Maybe this article was written in Spanish and there's a translator, and then that translator goes underneath that contributors. If it's not at the beginning of the article, you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and look to see if there's anything at the bottom. And this doesn't look like there's any contributors. I don't see anything. So, which means we don't, in MLA 8th edition, you don't write NA. You don't like, hey, I looked for it, it didn't have anything. You just ignore it and move to the very next thing. So since there are no contributors, the next thing that we need is the version or the number. Okay. So
paper article they're not going to have, right?
Right. If you guys did a journal article, like you found something on EBSCOhost or Gale Library, those on professional journals, those usually have a volume number or an edition or something like that.
All of these things, you see me going back here to look here, but if you did this correctly, you may just have to go back and look at your source. Right. So, you know, she's got title, author, URL. Now, if I know that this student has journal articles, so she would have to pull up that journal article to get that information since it's not right here. But because this is a newspaper article online, I know that I can also pull this up. That the date it was published was this date, but the date she accessed it was here.
Right.
So I think is the next thing the published date.
So the next thing should be the publisher. So we have the publisher. Sometimes you have, like if you are pulling an article from Dayton Daily News, the website might be Dayton Daily News, but that's not the publisher. The publisher is actually Cox Media Group. And so what you have to do is you go straight to the bottom. Usually wherever that copyright C is, it will tell you. And so C, it says BBC. So the news or the website is BBC News, but the publisher is just BBC. Trying to pull it up. Okay. So, and everything on the inside, this is just something that I have memorized. I don't anticipate that you guys have memorized this at the point. You have a period for the last names. You have a period for the title. Everything else is comma until the very last thing that you do, which is the URL. So that's why I'm not going back and forth to look. I just already know that.
Yep.
You can go back and forth and look, or if you're doing what Ms. Cockcroft is doing, hopefully that will do it for you and you won't even have to memorize it.
Yep. And then the published day, which I think she said June 29th, 2020.
And so this has to be in MLA format. So there's no abbreviation, day first. So you're actually going to say 29 June 2020, comma. And then the next thing that you have is the location. So if this were a print article, it would be what pages did you get it from? However, this is online. So what they're looking for, the actual location, is that URL. That's what we're going to take the HTTP off, but the URL is what we're looking for.
And so I'm going to draw your attention back over here. I've got my published day, published month, published year. And these are all optional and you don't need them, city edition, because this is the reason why you want to become familiar with the style guide that we've left over here on this week's notebook, because you kind of have to know that. If you didn't know that, like Miss Whitworth knows it because she's looking at the style guide, then you would be sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, what do I got to put in these? When in fact, I don't have to put anything. And so I'm going to ignore city, an edition, an issue, short title, but I am going to make sure I have this URL. And so I've copied it and you put it here. And then do we need the access day?
You do not need the day that you accessed it when you are working with MLA 8th edition. Some of them, like general rule of thumb, if these are as general as you can get across the board. So like if I've looked up a book or a website, where's the location at? Do I need an access date for a website? If you think maybe if you are looking at some material that will constantly change, otherwise you don't need an access date because they tried to make it similar no matter what your text is.
So the last thing, I'm not going to do mine quite yet. So she's got all of her information and now she's got to play with the formatting. So she's going to highlight it all. She's going to go up and click Times New Roman to make sure it's Times New Roman, and then make sure it's size 12. And you see that she's done that. You do that up here at the bar. One of the other things that she's going to make sure that she needs to do is a hanging indent.
We love it.
There are two ways to do it. So I'm going to show you the way that if you highlight it and you click insert and you click format and you go to align and indent and you go all the way down to indentation options. You go to special indent and you click hanging. It will do it for you.
There you go.
So that's one way, but there's also another way, right? So
right.
Tell me, if you tell me, I'll do it on this side so they can see.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to highlight the whole thing like you did before. And then you got to make sure that your ruler is exposed, and you're going to go, it looks like those two are attached on the ruler, but it's actually a rectangle on top of a triangle. And so what you're going to do, and you have to do it in this order, is you're going to drag the triangle to the 1/2 inch mark.
Hold on. Oh, my connection. There we go. The triangle. So if you see my cursor at the top here to the 1/2 inch.
Yep, right. It'll say 0.5 right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the rectangle, put your cursor just on the rectangle and move it out back to the 0. If you do it in a different order, it won't work.
So there you go. And that's pretty much it. And then you would come back down. And now, since we've done our citations, we're going to go back and we're going to copy her objective summary. Right?
Because the annotated bibliography, you needed your objective summary and you need your rationale. So you're going to put one there, then you're going to go back, you're going to copy that other one. And again, we're going to mess with the formatting because this is constantly changing. I will probably fix my format 5-6 times while I'm in a document. I'll just highlight the whole thing because I actually had a professor in college take out a ruler when I handed her a paper and it didn't match, the margin was off, and she handed the paper back to me and gave me a 0. So I make sure all of my stuff is, formatted before I turn it in. So she's going to highlight all of this and she's going to change it back to black. She's going to put Times New Roman 12-point font. She's going to make it in black because that's what MLA says. She's going to make it double space. And because this is an annotated bibliography, see where her margin is at the 1 inch? It should actually be where her hanging indent is. So while she has this highlighted, she's just going to go up and move that triangle again to that 1/2 inch. And now the next indent or the next source that she has is going to be way back out here.
So if you were to, let's pretend, so you have 8 of these and you saw how much that took up. Let's pretend that I did another, I went ahead and this is my next source, pretend it's a different source. What it's going to start to look like is this. And now, as you can see, let's pretend that's a different source. I've got a new source here. And then look, I've got, when we did that last name, it's right here as well. So you're going to have quite a few pages to this if you do it correctly.
And that's perfect, because remember, your capstone is 6 to 8 pages. So if you've done this well, this becomes your foundation. The next step, we're going to turn it into an outline, and then like every step just gets easier and easier.
And so you've done a lot of work at this point, or you should have. And so the more you put into this annotated bibliography, I know that when I did an annotated bibliography and I went to go write my paper, I looked at what I wrote, because chances are you've written some good things. You just had to flesh it out in the paper. So, and that is it. Bye-bye. Oh, I don't want to do that. Hold on. It's still recording. Wait, no.
It is.
It is still recording. Hold on.